Good morning, everyone. It's Rod here from beautiful Luang Prabang Wildlife Sanctuary in Laos. I'm live from Bear House 4, and we'll be having a look at Bear Houses 4 and 5 today. Bear House 4, in this habitat, we have, I think it's 8 or 9 of the survivors of the world's largest threatened bear cub rescue that occurred last year at the end of March. And we rescued 16 tiny little bear cubs from Vientiane, where they're being held in a house. We believe they were possibly destined for a bear bale farm, and it was a house in Vientiane, the Laos capital, and it was actually a microfinance company, and that was being run by a Chinese national with his Laotian wife. They've both fled. We don't know where they are. The police are looking for them, as far as I know. And we believe that the cubs had been ordered from the wild, poached, and were to be used in a bear bale farm. But what happened is that the neighbours could hear the screaming of the cubs. If you look on our YouTube page, you'll see the world's largest bear cub rescue. And the cubs were being screaming, and they could hear the screaming, and so they called the environmental police, and they went and raided the house and found the 16 cubs. Actually, there was 17, one had already died, and they immediately called Free the Bears, and we rushed down and had to rescue 16 cubs, and we had 2 others come in a day later, so we had 18 tiny cubs. They were all between 1.4 and 4 kilograms. They all required bottle feeding every 3 hours, so it was really tough for our little team here. And we had to call in some of our team from Cambodia, our cub care experts, and also some zookeepers from Australia, the Australian zoos that we have our connections with and have been support our conservation programs. And yeah, well, unfortunately one of the cubs passed away. It was just too small and couldn't make it. And the rest of them thrived and flourished. So these are just some of them. We have them spread across, I think, 3 different bear houses because there's so many. So this is like a stage 2 cub nursery. Well, actually, this is a bit bigger than a stage 2 cub nursery. This is a proper bear house that one group have come to, and you can see they're having a bit of fun. So they've got caves and swimming pools and climbing platforms and all sorts of environmental enrichments to make their life as good as possible in our care. Unfortunately, most of the bears we rescue are unable to be released, so these bear cubs, they never learn survival skills from their mothers. Their mothers were likely killed by the poachers. And, they're humanized now. We had to hand rear them because they were so small and delicate. So they're not good release candidates because they don't know the survival skills and they're used to humans. They need to be afraid of humans to survive. But also there's a lack of safe and protected forest in the wild, so we have to look after them for life. We give them the best life we can here at the sanctuary, and moon bears can live up to 40 years, maybe even more. So they're known to live for 25 to 35 years, but of course in captivity they have a better life. They're more well cared for, good diets, health care, and they don't have a lot of the problems that they might face in the wild. So yeah, they might live up to 40 years, so huge commitment. So we appreciate your support. We particularly ask people to be bear carers, which is a small monthly donation. We're a small charity and we have 304 bears in our care right now. So, and each bear costs over $3,000 a year to look after. So this is the beautiful bear houses they have. They like to spend all the time in the bear houses during the day because it's nice and cool. They have hammocks and it's thermally cool because it's made of concrete. So someone actually just had a bit of trouble. They're trying to they picked up a massive branch that they snapped off this tree, and they're trying to take it into the bear house to play with it in the branch and in the hammock. Anyway, let's walk around. I'll just take you around a little bit. This is our field for 2 rescued gibbons. They're one is a northern white-cheeked male and a southern white-cheeked female. They're critically endangered, the northern white-cheeked. So it's the same old story with the gibbons as the bears. Poachers go into the forest, they shoot the mothers, and then they take the babies to try to sell. And let's just see if we can get it. It's a bit difficult to zoom with YouTube Live. So there you can see, can you see in the distance, that's the little girl? So that's a female. So gibbons are born these species of gibbon, and a few species of gibbon are born bright yellow, and then they turn black. And then once the females reach sexual maturity, so that's for, I believe for this species of gibbon, it's around about 9 years, so it takes a while, they'll turn yellow again, the females. So gals, I think, from memory, about 5 or 6 now, so she'll be turning yellow again in another year or two, a couple of years. And she lives here with Don. She's a northern white cheek. Let's see if we can quickly find Don. They have a lovely habitat, and I think most of you know gibbons. They have those huge long arms and they love to swing through the trees, so they're really beautiful primate to watch. And so they're very dexterous. They can just hang in all sorts of upside down. Hello, Gail. Gail. She's going to ignore me. They're hunting. Oh no, that's that Don? No, that's Gail. Hunting insects and things. So we provide them a healthy diet, but we're lucky to have these lovely habitats where the bears and the other animals can also, supplement the diets we give them and have, natural experiences hunting and foraging for little treats. So she's a bit busy with her breakfast. The funniest things to watch they have. So of course gibbons are not a monkey, they're an ape. They're a lesser ape. So if you don't know the difference between monkeys and apes, basically apes don't have tails and monkeys generally do. There is, I think, one species of, a couple of species of monkey that don't have tails, but that's the general easy rule to apply. So of course apes include chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, gorillas, and gibbons, and there's some others in there. I'm not an expert, a primatologist, so I'm not going to be able to tell you much about primates. Okay, let's go around and have a look at the rest of Bear House 4, because we have 2, as well as the moon bear cubs that came in last year. We have a couple of sun bears cubs. They also came in last year. It's a boy and a girl. They were slightly older than the moon bears, so you'll notice that they're a little bit bigger, but the moon bears will catch up quite quickly because moon bears are a larger species. I think most people will know that sun bears are the world's smallest bear, and they generally around 40-50 kilos for the females and 50 to 60 kilos for the males, whereas for moon bears an adult female might be just let them know I'm here so I don't get started them. Hello. So this is a sun bear. So there's 2 bear species that live in Cambodia, Vietnam and Laos, where we operate, as well as also in Thailand and a couple of surrounding countries. I had 2 species, and some, as you venture further afield, there's even more bear species. So for example, India has also sloth bears and even brown bears in the Himalayas. So they have 4 of the 8 bear species of the world in one country, but just two bear species in Cambodia, Vietnam and Laos where we operate. Sun bears and moon bears. Sun bears are the world's smallest bear, a really incredible bear species. They have these giant long claws. They also have quite a wide head, you can see. So they have a really strong, huge canine teeth, the same size as a polar bear. They have the longest tongue of all bears, which you got to see there. So their tongue can extend 20 to 30 centimeters. And the tongue is great for, of course, getting insects and termites and honey. They're omnivores, both moon bears and sun bears, so they eat both plant and animal matter, or animals and plant matter. But the sun bears generally like to eat fruits. Can you hear some humming? So the humming is okay, I finished my thought. I often jump between thoughts because there's so much happening. So yes, but the sun bears prefer fruits and bugs, insects, larvae, termites, and also honey. Whereas the moon bears will also eat that, but also they'll eat small mammals if they can catch them, or maybe feed on any dead animals. I don't know whether the other little sun bear is. Maybe she's had her breakfast and she's having or he's had his breakfast and he's having a little nap. You will have seen just then that the sun bears have a beautiful U-shaped, golden U-shaped chest marking, and each one's unique, like a fingerprint. And the moon bears have a white V. There you go. Look at that. And the moon-shaped bears have a white V-shaped chest marking, and that's how they get the name moon bear. Sun bear, there's a little bit of debate as to whether the name sun bear comes from the golden U shape or because the sun bears are found around the equator or the hot equatorial sun, hence sun bears. So there's a little bit of debate in the literature when they were first named sun bears as to whether it's a chest marking or the location where they're found, because sun bears are just found in the tropical rainforests of Southeast Asia. Both sun bears and moon bears are a threatened species, which means they have a high risk of extinction in the wild. Okay, over here we have Bear House 5. Good morning, Kim. Happy Thursday. If you have any comments or questions, just let me know. So here we have a group of 4 bears. There's 3 female moon bears that were rescued, I think, last year as well. Hello. You're a bit excited. You're coming for a walk with me, are you? Oh, there's the other one. She's just coming out of the den now. She or he. I'm not sure which is female. So you can see it's quite difficult to tell the difference between the bears, but one way we can tell the difference is by looking at the chest marking, because that's unique, but sometimes it's difficult to see the chest, so you can look at other features like body shape, but also like the snout. Hello. So you can see his very different chest marking for, is it him or her? I can't tell, I think her. But also this one's snout is quite blonde, and the other one has a very dark face. So normally it's a little bit of blonde in the snout and golden colour around the eyes and the snout. So it's quite unusual to have a darker face. Well, not unusual, but less common to have a darker face bear. So these bears, of course, have those giant claws and teeth, and that's great for digging and pulling open trees, clawing open holes in trees, and breaking up old logs. So both sun bears and moon bears are really known as a keystone species. So they're really vital to healthy forest ecosystems because they eat lots of fruit, so they spread seeds, and they deposit in a nice little poo packet, so that's a good fertilizer. So they help the forest grow. And here you go, you can see the difference in the colour of their snouts here. Often side by side is how I tell the bears apart, because I know that some bears have certain features. Bonsai says, is 124 with the white front paw still in Bear House 8? So Bonsai, actually 124 is up at Bear House 9, I believe, which is, so there's 8 and 9 are newest bear houses at the top of the sanctuary. So we'll broadcast from there later in the week. And just found some more breakfast. And yes, the boy with the white paw, he's there with 4 other boys, Stevie and Sid and Rocky and one other who doesn't have a name. But I saw him last night. They were having a good old wrestle. I got some lovely footage. Okay, so let's have a look at Bear House 5. So we've got, we can see all 3 girls are out. So sorry, before when we were at the sun bear, we heard a humming. So that's, a lot of the cubs will suck on an ear or suck on a paw and make that humming sound. And it's a soothing mechanism for them to, if you may have seen cats that suckle. Hello. So it's often something we see in, here we go, we get to see the lovely moon bear's white V-shaped chest marking. This girl's a beautiful girl. She's always been the most friendly, loving, lovely little bear. She'll always come over and say hello. She was rescued, I can't remember the exact date, last year, but fully grown, so she's been in a cage for years, and she's really, adapted to being outside of the cage in the sanctuary. She loves it, but she's still very kind of people motivated, likes to come over and say hello. We're a sanctuary, so this is actually not open to the public. So we want the bears to have the best life they can, being just as natural a life as possible. That's a bit contrived because they're not in the wild, but they have these lovely habitats, and I think they have a pretty good life. I always say it's holiday health camp for bears. They have healthy diets, they have lovely habitats, caves, swimming pools. Look at the views, mountain views, and expert vet care. Normally both sun bears and moon bears are solitary in the wild, so they would, unless they were cubs or mating, you generally you wouldn't find them together. Actually, not much is known about either species. There's very little in the wild, particularly sun bears, because they live in thick tropical rainforest, so it's almost impossible to see them in the wild. And I think the bears have a pretty good life here. I was saying they're solitary in the wild, but we can't obviously. Sorry, we've just got a bit of noise, truck going up the hill, because at the moment we're building a construction truck. We're building bear houses 10 and 11, and then we'll move straight on to 12. We've been rescuing so many bears that we're just frantically building. In fact, we've been frantically building this sanctuary since we opened it in the end of 2017, because bears have just been coming in record numbers every year. We rescued 34 bears as an organisation, but 30 of them were in Laos. So it's just nuts. We've got 123 bears at this sanctuary already. So we really appreciate your help. We couldn't do any of this without you. Anyway, back to, the bears in groups. So we can't have obviously a habitat for each bear because we've got limited space and funds. So we form groups, and it's quite interesting because the bears actually get a lot of enrichment and value from each other. So there's a lot of play. We even see, in Cambodia we've got bears we've had for over 25 years, and we even see old geriatric sun bears that have disabilities, one missing a paw, one blind, and they'll be wrestling and playing in the morning. So it's really lovely to see that they can actually get some enrichment value from each other. And what we have to do is make sure that they're happy bears, so they have enough food, and then they have choices so that they can go different places. So here at the sanctuary, the bears have 24-hour access outdoors, so they can choose to sleep indoors or outdoors. Most choose to sleep indoors, actually, in their dens, in their house. They like it there. I guess they might feel a bit safe and it's comfortable and cool. But some bears really enjoy sleeping outdoors as well, but the vast majority like to sleep indoors, which sometimes I think people see this and go, oh no, all bears must be in the wild. And, there's a reason these bears aren't, because we always put the welfare of the bears first. So they don't know how to survive in the wild, and they would likely be killed because there's no protected forest that's safe. There's a lot of hunting in this country. But, just because an animal is in captivity does not mean that it has a really bad life. So I think it's a mistake to say that I used to think this honestly before I learnt more about Free the Bears and got involved. I used to think, every zoo is bad, every animal in captivity is bad, but it's not necessarily so. Animals in captivity, if there's no choice, and that's the best welfare choice for them, can have a very, happy and good life. And that's our job to do. We have to just give them the best possible life. So this is one enclosure of Bear House 5. Let's go to the second enclosure. It's got a big group, and so actually we have 3 girls and a boy, and the boy is unable to breed. So normally we just have males and females in separate groups. Over here in this bear house, because the cubs are all quite young, they can be males and females mixed. So that's what we have. So they can be males and females mixed up until about 3.5 years. So around about 4 years they start to get near sexual maturity, and then we have to split the groups between male and female. There goes our vet, Dr. Meng, our Lao vet. So the boy that lives with those 3 girls, he's in the den at the moment because he's got a small eye problem, so he's just getting some medicine for that. And this is the other side of Bear House 5. Big group of girls. It's a bit difficult to see them because they're in sort of thick forest. There's someone over there. I think that's Everon. Can you see? just in the undergrowth. So we've just hit wet season here in Laos. So the rain started about a month ago. So up until about a month ago or a month and a half ago, it was pretty brown and dusty. And because it's quite hot here in Southeast Asia, and once the rains start, it's just, the transformation is almost instantaneous. It's quite extraordinary. So the sanctuary's just turned this incredible green. Oh no, I think that's Paulie actually, Everon's sister. So we've got two sets of siblings. So moon bears, some bears generally have one cub. Moon bears generally have two, can have two often. They can have between 1 and 3. There's 2 bears back there doing their foraging for their breakfast. Just have a bit of trouble with the zoom in YouTube. So we often have sibling pairs rescued together where the poachers killed the mother, sold the 2 cubs, and someone's bought them because they feel sorry for the poach and they feel sorry for the cubs. Even though it's illegal, they think they're doing a good, kind act. And, they think the bear cubs are cute and the cubs are cute and they're, maybe easy to manage for, I would say, a month and a half, and then they quickly become dangerous and destructive. And that's when they get put in a cage, and sometimes they stay in a cage their whole life. Sometimes people will sell them to a bear bar farm because it gets expensive and difficult to keep them. And hopefully sometimes our government partners hear about them, or we hear about them, and they get confiscated or voluntarily handed over and given to us. Here comes someone there. That is Paulie. Is it Paulie? Hello? And yes, and then we start the process of rehabilitation. Every bear that comes in spends a month in quarantine. And where they have health checks and healthy diets, and then they're able to be put into we try to put them into a group, and our bear carers are experts at finding personalities that match. So but bears are extremely intelligent, so they all have very individual personalities. So each bear might dislike another particular bear, or a couple of bears, or and so we have to sort of introduce them through the bars and the dens, and then see if they look like they're going to get on, and then if they touch noses and they look like they're interested in each other and going to be friendly. So this is the whole process which our expert bear carers are experts in, because we rescue so many bears. She's got a little bit of scratch on her bum, so she's maybe had a little bit of a play fight with someone. So they do, when they play fight, sometimes there's a little bit of a scratch or a cut. That happens. But generally, the groups, once we've worked out that the bears can get on, the groups are pretty good. There's very rarely any major problems. The girls are particularly easy to deal with. You might not be surprised to hear that the females can get on quite well, whereas the males can be much more problematic. And they're fine up until about when they're cubs for 5-6 years, and then about 6 years with the boys, the hormones really start flowing, and each one's different, but they can get pretty difficult teenagers, and sometimes friendships that have been there for years just disintegrate. And yeah, it becomes a bit of a problem. Sometimes they grow out of it around about 10. They sort of get through that difficult teenage phase. Sometimes not. And we do have bears in every sanctuary where the males have to just live alone. We have to find an enclosure, just a habitat just for one male, which isn't ideal for us because of the limited space we have. If anyone has any questions, let me know. It looks like all the girls are either back in the dens because it's getting hot. We're 10:30 already, 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what the time is. Yeah, right on 10. So it's really started to heat up. Even though we're in the mountains, so it gets quite cool at night. And we actually have a winter here in Laos in the mountains. It can drop down to 12 degrees at night. And that's over Christmas time with the Northern Hemisphere. So December, January, February is quite cool in Laos. But still, even still during the days, and especially in the rest of the year, it can get quite warm, around 34, 35. It is a beautiful place, and particularly during wet season. So look, I can't see any of the girls. I think they're back indoors or still out foraging. As you can see, they have a lovely habitat. That's thanks to you, thanks to your support. And if I can't see them, then great. That's the way we want it. As I said, it's a sanctuary. It's not. We don't have any public coming here. We do some tours to try and raise some funds, private tours, but it's not open to the public, this sanctuary. So yeah, we just want the bears to be bears, and if they disappear and we can't see them for the day, perfect. And we're lucky this sanctuary has lots of flowering and fruiting trees, and there's bugs galore. So there's wonderful natural enrichments that they would have, just as if they were wild bears. So, okay, I'm going to finish there. I was hoping to see more of those girls, but I'm sadly not. But I wanted you to see Bear House 4 and 5. Let's just end with this very cute little sun bear cub being very adorable. So this is the boy. I think I can see some boy parts. Having a little sunbathe. So the younger cubs, they'll stay out a bit longer and play when it starts to heat up, whereas the older bears, they get a bit lazier and they know it's time to go in and just have a sleep for the day, or in the heat of the day. So these two, so I mentioned we're building bear houses 10 and 11, and they'll be filled straight away with growing cubs. Then we'll move straight into bear house 12, which is going to be for sun bears. So these two will move from this area, because that's a bit of a smaller area. It's more like a stage 2 cub nursery for the next stage of the development into the larger new sun bear house. So yeah, it's just been nuts. Yeah, it's really put a lot of pressure on our small charity, rescuing record numbers of bears and having hundreds of bears in our care. But this year is our 30th year of helping bears, and now we have sanctuaries in 3 countries, Cambodia, Vietnam and Laos, and 300, just over 300 rescue bears in our care, and we've helped rescue over 1,000 bears. Look at you, what are you doing? Just snacking with the minimal effort possible. Good work. Nope. And the little friend over there is just going for a nap in the hammock. Look. You comfortable enough there? Oops, difficult for me to shoot. Sorry, excuse my poor camera work. Oh, you're waving hello. And that's a bit dark, isn't it? So as you can see, the bears have a pretty good life, and that's all thanks to you. Thank you for being bear carers. Margaret says, why don't you add a membership to your channel? I would join. So Margaret, we're not actually, Free the Bears is, I think people see all the work we do and assume that we're a really rich charity and lots of resources. And in fact, we're not. We are, we're in that difficult stage where we've suddenly become big in terms of the amount of staff and bears, but we haven't really managed to grow our support teams. We don't spend any donor funds on advertising or marketing, unlike the other charities you may have heard of. They spend millions and millions and millions they spend more on marketing Facebook ads than we bring in a year. So I will look into that. Memberships on the YouTube channel, I have no idea about that, and I'm the only person who does all the social media, comms, PR, everything. So IT, so for one person, it's pretty difficult to be highly skilled and on top of everything. But I thank you for the suggestion. I'll read up on it and see if it's something we could do. I've only just started doing the YouTube lives, so yeah. So Yeah, anyway, constantly trying to get better and improve as a really small charity, just trying to, just trying to constantly play catch up because we're not a big charity with big teams to support us or anything like that. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being bear carers and helping us out. If you're not already, please go to our website, Free the Bears, and become a bear carer. It's a small monthly donation, less than the cost of a coffee each week. And you can rest assured with a charity like Free the Bears that your donations are coming to help the bears. They're not going to advertising and marketing campaigns. I think, as I said, many of the larger charities you'll have heard of. You'll have heard of them because they spend a lot of marketing advertising, and I'm not saying that that's wrong. Sometimes you've got to spend money to earn donations, but it's just with Free the Bears we don't do that. We're a very lean charity, and donations go directly to the bears. So every donation, no matter how small, really does make a difference for a small charity like Free the Bears. Little moon bear cubs, I think they're gonna go in. Looks like it's going to rain, doesn't it? I think we have the rain just comes shooting down the valley. You can actually hear it from about 10 minutes away or 5 minutes away, and you're like, okay, here it comes. I think that's happening now. Thank you so much, everyone. Tia says it's so nice to see the bears in open areas. Thank you. We do our best. Yes. And we believe that the bears have a pretty good life after rescue, better than the cages. So sometimes people say, oh, free the bears, but they're not free. And you have to explain that yes, we've freed them from these horrible cages and horrific lives, but they will be in captivity, so we just have to give them the best life in captivity. And yeah, as I always say, I think they have a pretty good life. Holiday health camp for bears. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good one. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it. And yes, be a bear carer. Have a great rest of the week. Ciao.